Hello everybody, welcome to my very first video, although this is hardly my first build. This channel is called Gallery Gremlin, and today we're setting up a medieval witch's cottage. This is going to be two little crooked cottages with a shared kitchen in the middle, and I am really excited to share part of a larger project, which is recreating Henford-on-Bagley to be a medieval village. And I plan to have sort of a king and a queen owning a bunch of residential properties, classic medieval, caste system, and I think that's going to be a really fun game to play. So in this particular witch's cottage, I am going to build a family of two sisters, two spellcasters, and they're going to live here together, and each has their own cottage, their own space, while, having that shared kitchen in the middle. So as I was going through this, I messed around with a lot of windows before finally settling on these. These are actually from Horse Ranch, and they're not, exactly like traditional witch's cottage, but I really liked how they kind of came together here. The amount of time that I messed around with chimneys in this build is absolutely ridiculous. I think I probably spent literally half the time building this. Okay, not literally, but a good portion, too much of my time working on these chimneys. You'll see them, as we go through this. And I thought this came out really cute. It was not my first sort of idea as far as shape and general architecture structure, but I think it's a really nice mix here of a medieval vibe with the sort of realm of magic, because my other builds are much more rustic in this village. And this is just a little bit more refined, it's a little bit nicer, and I think that makes sense. These aren't, gonna be raggedy, ratty, woodsy witches. We're gonna have some nice, refined, classy witch babes. And this channel is pretty much for just building, I think. I'm just getting it started, but I don't really plan on doing any gameplay, but who knows, maybe I'll do a follow-up at the very end and show you all the families that I have built in to my town here, medieval Henford. So I am going to put all of these builds up on the gallery, which is also, my handle there is also going to be, I created it, Gallery Gremlin. I have been in the gallery under a different handle, and I've uploaded a few in the past, but I just changed it so that we can be consistent across, all the platforms. And you can also find me on TikTok and on Instagram, Gallery Gremlin. I definitely relate and resonate with gremlins in my real life. So this is the second cottage that I was working on, and this shape came together a lot easier. It's so classic, right? Just, these two little boxes next to each other. But I think once you add that tall, kind of angled roof in there, it has a really sweet, cute, cottagey vibe. And I don't think I'm gonna mess with chimneys for another minute. but we'll see. I would not put it past me. Great. So at this point, I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to lay out the floor plan. I was considering, you know, in this first cottage, having the bedroom upstairs. I think if I were not going to have the conjoined kitchen or do this shared kind of family housing, that is what I would do. I would do a really small kitchen downstairs, a sweet little, you know, sitting area in this round alcove, and then probably a bedroom upstairs. I did end up doing a different floor plan, and we'll go through that a little bit later. But these are relatively small spaces. More chimney stuff. Classic. I have another build that I'll put up next week, and it's a castle, and it is my most, maybe not my most elaborate build I've ever done, but it's pretty elaborate, and the amount of time I spend on rocks, like putting rocks around sort of like an elevated terrain platform, is unbelievable. I'm gonna just do it in like hype warper speed. I considered deleting it and moving it out of there in editing, but I honestly want you guys to see how neurotic I was. I probably have at least 5 hours into that build. This one was probably closer to, maybe it's more than 6 hours. I don't even know. Because I was gonna say this one was probably close to 4, so I can't imagine that castle was only 2 hours longer. But I really love it, you know, and I take my time, so, I mean, maybe I shouldn't share my tricks of editing, but I am probably gonna cut that out later. So I did spend some time here working on the landscaping, which I'm not sure why I did. Maybe I wasn't sure that I was going to do the greenhouse yet in the middle, because this ends up, you know, not being used at all by the time I move these houses and start putting the greenhouse in. After this build was totally done and I was looking back on this, I think that the layout of this lot is really cute, and I actually think that I do like it more than I do once I put the greenhouse in. But we made the choices, we went for it, and I do like it too. You guys can let me know if you prefer it at that point, where we just have the sweet little 2 cottages kind of popped in next to each other, or if you think the greenhouse makes it cuter, better. So I did start messing around with the inside there, but I kind of switched gears and then started working on the greenhouse in the middle. So this is what I was saying. At this point, we really lose all of that landscaping, and luckily I didn't spend too much time on it here. So for this greenhouse, this is a really fun build that I worked on, and I'm finally figuring out how to do round rooms. It was obviously a learning curve for all of us. Some of us probably picked up on it a lot faster than I did, but I'm feeling good, finally, and confident about round rooms. I will say something different next week, I'm sure, as I'm spending hours trying to figure out how to do something. This greenhouse is just like a little elaborate, and now looking back on it, there's always things we would change. I think I might make that second story, see if that's the shortest wall option or if it's somewhere in the middle, because I think I'd like that to be a little shorter. And then as I was building these hallways out, I knew that I was going to attach them, but that I wanted to move the houses a bit more. So I did not connect them so I could still move them as individual houses and move them around to place them exactly where I wanted to. Whereas if I had, you know, connected it to the central greenhouse, it would have been a lot more complicated to move. And also with this greenhouse, I did make use of the new glass wall pattern, wall treatment that's added. And here I ended up moving that because I realized I wanted it to be centered with my roof line, which means I'm moving my chimney again. So I'm gonna make in this, I think I'll do like a tally of how many times I move these GD chimneys, because it's a lot. Oh, there we go again. More chimney work. Alright, chimneys, fireplaces. Awesome. Alright. So here I'm working on the interior of the first cottage, which is the smaller of the two cottages. Well, it's actually the second cottage I built. That's fine. We'll call it the smaller cottage, not the first or second. So this is really quaint, just like a cute little studio apartment setup, and we've got a little sitting area, we've got our hallway that's going to go to our shared kitchen space. But you know, these are going to be two adults living together. Okay, so here in my personal sort of gallery, I can't think of the word. In my personal folder though, I have a room saved. I have a couple rooms that just have sort of categories of decor. So this one is like cottagey stuff. It really saves me a lot of time going through the gallery. I have a bunch of debug items, or I'm sorry, in my catalog. I have a bunch of debug items in my catalog, and it's just so small, and I struggle scrolling through there. I could spend, I mean, that takes half the time. It cuts my build time in half by having this sort of pre-picked out, all the stuff that I know that I like, the stuff that I know that I like for cottages. I make it really tiny, you know, with the brackets so that it doesn't take up a lot of space, and then I can go in there and grab, you know, my most commonly used items. I know that there is a mod to use, Twisted Mexi has a mod where you can make favorites, but I play on a Mac and my keyboard doesn't have the key, I think it's the Alt key, that you need for that mod to do favorites. And that's fine. I mean, I've messed around with mods, but honestly, the amount of times they break with updates, and I don't know, I sometimes think it's just more of a hassle than it's worth. I can play by the rules sometimes. A little bit. This is one of my favorite items in the whole game, is these sort of viney curtains, and I want them in real life. I want those in my real house. I'm looking at my window right now, and I searched everywhere and I can't find them. I don't know if they exist. If someone has a link, ooh, let me know. That'd be great. Alright, so on to this greenhouse. This was a little bit of a slower build for me. I really kind of went back and forth on the layout. I think I sped this up, yeah, a little bit more so you didn't have to fully sit through it. But I wanted this to be very minimal. it is still like a medieval sort of time period where kitchens, I mean, at least in my understanding and my imagination about medieval times, I don't think they had refrigerators or sinks, first of all. But for real, I just think their kitchens were a little bit less, extensive than what we have today. And also at this point, as I was going through the catalog, I just started pulling out some stuff that I might want to use later while I was seeing it, so that I didn't forget stuff that seemed like it might be a good fit. I ended up deleting most of it, but it's still nice to kind of just go through. Gives me ideas. I think I just really struggle with the catalog, which is why I have workarounds like that room and just, like I said, pulling stuff out when I see it. I don't know if anyone else plays that way. It's probably not groundbreaking, but it definitely works for me. So as I build these houses, I think it really helps me to imagine the people that are going to be living there, how they'll use the space. I just picture their story. So like I said, I'm quite specifically building this for 2 Spellcaster sisters, and this could be used, for any number of families or households. But I do like imagining that my Spellcasters are going to sort of just spice up my town a little bit. I want them to kind of maybe wreak some havoc. They're going to definitely be mischievous. That will be a character trait of theirs. And like I said, we have the king and the queen, and obviously those won't be their real professions, but they'll kind of be like the landlords of the whole town, and I want them to be, trying to keep order, and maybe our spellcasters just create problems for them, just start wreaking havoc, in like a fun, impish, playful way, not like a disastrous, evil way. But just, shaking things up a little bit. So this is the forager's bench, and I thought that was a really fun addition to this kitchen, because it's sort of like an alchemy / cooking kitchen. And I did not put a stove in, I just put the cauldron in, and that's definitely going to limit what sort of meals my household can cook. It wouldn't be hard to add a stove in, obviously, but I just kind of liked the idea of not having a stove. I have been using cauldrons in fireplaces for the rest of these builds. I haven't actually played with them yet, so I'm not sure if they'll be functional once they're kind of tucked into a fireplace and shrunk down one size and elevated off the floor 1 or 2 clicks. I'm not sure if my Sims will actually be able to use it, but we'll see. If not, we'll do some stoves. It's not the end of the world. So at this point I decided that I was going to move the doors. I kind of had archways to those hallways, but then I decided it made a lot more sense because I wanted to have a door here to outside, and having 3 doors in that room felt really excessive. So I think just keeping those hallways open and then having the doors into the house obviously made so much more sense. So here we are doing the interior of my larger cottage, and same thing here. I wanted these to be just, cute little studio apartments for one person. I did not put double beds in. I did consider that, but I don't know. I just really want these witch sisters to be, single. I don't know. I usually have a lot of like romance storylines, and these witches just strike me as babes who do not need a man. And as I was building this, I ended up using a lot of the furniture from Horse Ranch. I felt like it was still rustic in a medieval way, but a little more elevated, where it wasn't just like, you know, cobbled together kind of like shacky furniture. And it's not quite as nice as the furniture in my castle. So I felt like this was just a really nice intermediate kind of style for that. And as I'm doing these builds, all I want is to buy more packs. And also, why on earth do we not have a medieval stuff pack? I feel like I can picture it in my mind. It's like there's a word for that, like with the Bernstein Bears. Like, I feel like I can picture medieval stuff. Did it exist in a different Sims, like Sims 3 or Sims 2 or something? I don't know. But I feel like that'd be a hit. I have almost every, like, expansion and game pack, almost. There's a few that I wasn't interested in, but I don't have a lot of stuff packs, and there is a September sale going on that they keep telling me about every day, and I am tempted for some stuff packs. So this is my sort of like alchemy tower, like a little bit of storage space up here. We have kind of like this tome on the wall there with some books, some herbs drying. Woo! So this is sort of a sweet little flower garden section, and then we have our animal area with our animal shed and some chickens. Some goats are gonna live there. A little bit of gardening plots, you know, sort of scattered around. I do like to use the debug fences because it lets me put them all the way out to the very edge of my lot. It's a little annoying to place them, but I did add this magic portal. And that is just about it, I think. We have our, you know, little pond here. Oops, didn't mean to go all the way down there. And then, yeah, we'll do a final tour. And you can tell me also, do you think that this is as cute with the greenhouse? Do you think that it adds to it, or it was cuter before and I should have just made these, you know, individual full operating cottages with the kitchens? And, you know, speaking of which, I did not add a bathroom in here. I don't know if anyone noticed. I did have a plan to put an outhouse in, sort of building it myself with, you know, an outhouse and an outdoor shower, like a bathroom building type of situation. But then as I was going through, I found that you could buy just like an outhouse. I think it was from Horse Ranch. It was either Horse Ranch or Outdoor Adventure. But it looked cute, and I think that I would just, you know, possibly use that. Right? At any rate, this is our witch's cottage. Ooh, let's take a look, one more final tour through our little apothecary tower, alchemy apothecary. Yeah. I was considering adding a basement in to kind of create like a potion room, maybe some crystal balls, you know, that kind of stuff. So we'll see. If I do, I'll make an additional video and share it. But for now, there she is. Alright guys, so I wanted to share a little bit about what I'm going to do in this next video for you guys next week. I'm going to put out new videos every Monday, and we are working on our King and Queen's Castle next Monday. This was the first video I ever recorded, and editing this was a bear. I did not do a good job recording, and I might not even put it up, but the build is so cool. Like, it's really, really cool, if I do say so myself, and I'm not one, honestly, to oversell. So, stick around, come see my castle. It's pretty cool, if I didn't tell you that already. All right. Gallery Gremlin, subscribe. Check me out on Instagram and TikTok and all that good stuff. And thanks for watching, guys.